Hello everyone, and welcome to our presentation of Strategic Game for Business Assignment 2. Today's topic will be about love and creating a strategy game around love. Our groupmate will be myself, Lim Meng Hui, and Jonathan Ng. This game theory of love is involve two or more players within a relationship. The main objective of this game is to determine and analyze the maximum payoff for each of the players. To understand, we must understand the theory, which is closely related to prisoner's dilemma. What is prisoner dilemma, some may ask? Prisoner dilemma present a situation where two parties separate and unable to communicate, and one must choose between cooperating with the other or not. The highest reward for each party occurs when both parties choose to cooperate. But this is where the challenging part is. Let's give an example. The classic prisoner dilemma goes like this. Two members of a gang bank robbers, let's say it's Dave and Henry, have been arrested and interrogated in two separate rooms. The authority have no witnesses and only prove the case against them. The only way that both players get out of jail with lesser jail time is if both players cooperated and not telling the truth and snitching against each other. If one player snitches, the other player will get more jail time. And this is basically how prisoners dilemma work. Closely similar to the strategy game of love, where if one cooperates, then both will get lesser jail time. But if one or another doesn't cooperate, one or another will get their feelings hurt. As you can see from the payoff metrics table we have created below, there's four possible scenarios. First scenario is if player 1 confesses and player 2 confesses. This creates a happy relationship where it's a win-win situation for both parties, where none of their feelings get hurt. And scenario 2 is when player 1 stays silent and player 2 confesses. This make player 2 get hurt and put player 2 in a vulnerable situation, and vice versa. If player 1 confesses and player 2 stays silent, this make player 1 feels rejected. And scenario 4 is if both players stay silent. This creates an ego intact where both players doesn't want to confess their feeling first, or both players doesn't feel the same way. This creates a dominant strategy. A dominant strategy occurs when one strategy is better than another strategy for one player. No matter how the player's opponent may play, many simple games can be used using this dominant strategy. So if both players doesn't confess, both players has the maximum payoff. If both players confesses, both players also has the maximum payoff. How to involve better payoff for a player is when a player takes action to increase payoff to gain advantage to win the game. In a strategic move game, there are two things: is B response, rules, and unconditional move. To increase payoff, players must have knowledge that the other players will do, which I'll give a few examples in the next slide. So player 1 must know whether player 2 feels the same way. So for player 1 to confess, player 1 needs to know that player 2 will do the same. However, if player 1 doesn't know what player is going to do, then player 1 best option is to stay silent. Payoff in this game will increase if both players know what the other players is feeling. Now for the rollback equilibrium. Players move that will change to affect the outcome of the game. There is two types of Nash equilibrium in this particular game. One is if both player confesses. Second is if both players stay silent. As this is a very repeated game, as both players play off towards cooperation or both players play off towards rejection. Within this sequential game, both players are looking for the best outcome. Now we're gonna talk about advantage of being a first mover and second mover. So first mover always enter the space first. Always enter the decision making first. Being one turn up on your opponent is a significant advantage. It is hard to create a balanced handicap for the starting player. But certain games, second mover will get a raise in point for going second. For this particular game, second mover gets the advantage. This is due to knowing what's the first mover step and replicating their emotion and action based off of their action. Thank you very much for listening, and this is all for the strategy game of love.